South Africa, along with other nations, bears the brunt of higher trade tariffs on their exported goods to the United States, threatening to disrupt trade and economic activity. SAIA says the current geopolitical environment is turning its back on international cooperation and on the notion that challenges the world faces are a collective problem, and that fragmentation and protectionist policies may become a problem for everyone later. CEO Elizabeth Sidiropoulos says the challenges present an opportunity for African countries to implement growth policies with speed.
Unfortunately, the narrative at the moment coming from some countries is that we need to focus on us first. And this is going to come back to bite not just the countries that will be will have to face the immediate consequences, like African countries, other countries in the developing world, but actually more globally. So in this environment then, when international cooperation is becoming more difficult, where ODA, aid, development cooperation, is being reduced because of other priorities, and certainly in the European context it's about defense and security. African countries also need to look at what they can do and how they can drive much more speedily the reforms that are necessary at the domestic but also at the regional level to actually optimize the opportunities that can be presented, for example, by the African Continental Free Trade Area. We constantly talk about that, but we have been very slow in rolling that out.
Standard Bank's Lutando Vuba says the extent of the impact on the banking sector of the higher trade tariffs imposed on South African exports to the United States will depend on the impact on businesses, especially in sectors that will be directly impacted, like the auto manufacturing sector.
If you think about the tariffs changes, particularly coming from the US, and you think around the BOA, which is a beneficiation policy, it is directly impacting that auto manufacturer, but more so the SME that is a supplier to the auto manufacturer, which is a component or a part of certain material. And what some of the things that we are doing is to look at, there's our footprint, there's also our international reach. How do we help some of these businesses with alternative market access? And I think as much as the tariff shifts are there, there's also policy shifts. You think about the EU and what they require from exports that are going into the EU. I think it's increasingly important that the African businesses start to look in the region where there's less prohibitions. In fact, there's more opportunity with beneficial policies such as the regional economic communities, whether it's SADC, ECOWAS, or the East Africa community, or even furthermore, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So
delegates at the Financing Africa Forward Summit heard that African countries are usually rated as high risk than they should when taking out debt, making them pay higher interest, which then takes away resources that could be going to other national priorities. Speakers say the cause of this is the negative perceptions that some countries do not have predictable frameworks and institutions, as well as financial integrity, despite the region not having high default cases. They recommend providing adequate data and information, as well as improving engagement with the agencies to change the narrative. They say this will reflect a more accurate picture of what is going on in Africa. Gloria Sefakomusi, SABC News, Johannesburg.